Welcome once again to Constel English. I'm your host, Fanny de Guzman. The last time we were together was on that episode on testing listening. This time, it's going to be on testing speaking. In the previous episodes, you learned various strategies in teaching the speaking skills. But how would you know whether your students have acquired the skills, how well and what level they have attained? Of course, one way to find this out is by testing. Testing speaking is a very important component of language testing. Many teachers have found difficulties in testing this language skill. Let's find out what some teachers have to say about oral language assessment. Okay. So, how do you test speaking in your class?
I use a paper and pencil test to assess the speaking skills included in the unit. What can you say about this?
Well, if you ask students to write down their answers, it may not be a valid test of speaking. The students' responses have to be spoken, not written. In a speaking test, students speak.
But that's how we've tested speaking all these years.
Well, maybe it's high time that we do something about it.
Oh, does that mean that we'll have to listen to each of our students speak? Well, I have 315 students in all, you know.
And how long will it take us to finish testing speaking? Eternity? And how do we rate them?
I think I know how to test reading and listening and grammar. But speaking, I think I have yet to see how it's done.
Can we just keep testing speaking?
I'm afraid not. You see, if we have lots of speaking activities in class, and if we don't test speaking, our students might think that it's not important. And you know how important speaking is. You have just watched a group of English teachers discuss the difficulties in preparing speaking tests. Indeed, speaking is the most difficult language skill to test due to the following reasons. Firstly, traditional speaking tests have been time-consuming, laborious, one-on-one tasks. Secondly, scoring procedures have been quite subjective. No agreement has yet been reached by testing experts as to the components or criteria for assessing speaking. Furthermore, the language samples are subjective and unstable. There is endless variability in terms of the language functions, forms, purposes, and addressees. Despite these difficulties, it is still necessary that speaking skills be tested. Students engage in a lot of oral activities in class. In fact, a number of speaking skills are among the desired language competencies in the high school English curriculum. It is therefore expected that oral skills be tested if we want to know whether our instructional goals have been achieved. Now, what do most classroom teachers want to know about testing speaking? To find out, I interviewed a very young and promising English teacher in one of our high schools. Let me take you to that scene. Dong, how do you find teaching English?
Well, I enjoy it very much. As a matter of fact, I find it quite challenging too. You see, students have various skills, abilities, and backgrounds, and I would really have to adjust to each and everyone's capabilities.
Have you had any difficulties in teaching English?
Yes, ma'am, many times. What I would really like to know are strategies in testing a large number of students in a much shorter time. You see, testing them one by one, like with interviews, are really time-consuming and tedious to say the least.
Oh, yeah, I understand it perfectly. Say with 50 students, I know you would want to test that is time efficient and systematic.
Yes, ma'am. And then scoring is difficult too. Scoring is subjective. Ma'am, is there a way in testing speaking less subjectively?
Well, we refer to that as objective scoring or objectified scoring. Some testing experts have recommended the use of rating scales, which contain components to be assessed and the scoring points to be given to each component.
Oh, really? That's good.
Yeah.
Maybe I could see some of these rating scales later. Oh, by the way, we also have, ma'am, achievement tests in reading, listening, and in grammar. But for the life of me, I'm really at a loss as to how speaking tests are conducted.
Oh, so you also want achievement-based speaking tests. How about proficiency-based speaking tests? You know, this tests the ability of students to speak in real-life situations. Sometimes we combine these two, achievement-based and proficiency-based, and we call this pro-achievement speaking test.
That's nice, ma'am. Maybe you could help me and my fellow teachers.
Oh, sure. Maybe we could make arrangements for a testing workshop.
Could we? Really?
Yeah.
Well, that's great. Thank you.
Not at all, though. What kinds of speaking tests do classroom teachers want? We'll give the answers to this when we return. Don't go away. Welcome back. Many classroom teachers want speaking tests that are systematic and time efficient, achievement-based, proficiency-oriented, and less subjectively scored. To be successful in developing speaking tests, two important issues will have to be addressed. The first one is the definition of a test. We can view a test as a sample of the universe of tasks students have been asked to complete during a unit or throughout the school year. This view is important because it implies that not everything taught during the school year will have to be tested. Only a representative sampling of the tasks will have to be assessed. And these tasks will have to be tested in a manner similar to what students have engaged in the classroom. A second issue to be addressed is test validity. The validity of a test is the extent to which it measures what it is supposed to measure. A speaking test must measure speaking, not any other skill. In other words, the testees must speak. Thus, in a speaking test, the stimulus can be spoken, written, or nonverbal. However, the response must always be spoken. Validity is lost when another mode of response is used. So, in preparing a speaking test, validity and sampling issues will have to be given due consideration. And in addition, the test developer has to think about certain decisions that have to be made. What are they? The teacher has to make decisions on format. Will he use an interactive or a solo format? Will the content be old or new? Will the performance be impromptu or prepared? What partnering and or sequencing procedure will be used? Will the presentation be live or taped?